Look who finally decided to show up. Oh, did poor Henry have to work more hours today?
Just kill me now.
So who's this lovely lady?
Cass, this is Lester. I have no idea his last name. Lester, this is Cassidy. She's the deputy sheriff of this region, whatever that means.
Come on now, Henry. We're all professionals here. Lester Carpenter, pleased to meet you in the flesh, Cassidy.
Would you look at that? Someone with actual manners. It's nice to meet you too, Lester. And I'm the democratically elected Sheriff Cassidy Kennedy. And before you ask, maybe besides charisma, I'm only sort of related to the famous ones, like just kind of through 3 marriages.
Sorry, what? How did you get elected for anything?
When I stepped down about a month ago. It's good to see you, Henry. Sorry to drag you out here, especially so late.
Lester, this is, I guess, the old sheriff around this part, Sheriff Eric Jensen. Sheriff Jensen, Lester Carpenter.
G'day, mate. This is my first time, so be gentle.
Seriously, Henry, you brought him to this as his first ever call out? Like, what the hey?
I didn't do it on purpose, and anyway, neither one of us has much of an idea of what we're walking into. Callout said that there was an issue with a guy named Jennings at one of the bunkers, and then we pretty much just headed straight over.
Mostly, Kenny and Sergey were there as well, taking care of an audit. We switched out with them and I picked him up on the way.
That's okay, Lester. They don't need all the details.
Oh no, I like to keep up with what's going on. In fact, it's one of my main missions now as sheriff, keeping abreast of all the situations. What was the audit for? Anyone I know? You got here pretty quickly, so couldn't have been in the complexes, so probably the farms.
We have customer confidentiality, so I, can't disclose names, Cass.
That's okay. Badge says I'm allowed to hear about all the recent retrievals and investigations. Kind of an interdepartmental thing.
She's right, Henry. If you and Lester are coming from the complexes, we set up an agreement a month or so ago to start sharing information. You can answer the sheriff.
Ah, too easy. It was the Jamesons. Out on the farm, Sheriff.
I can take it from here, Lester. Can I get you to look over the trailer we brought? Get an idea on ammo, gear, and anything else it has on it?
Of course, mate. I get the hint. Be back in a jiffy. I brought up some wagon wheels. You want me to bring you some back?
Oh, what's a wagon wheel? Like old school wagons? Carts and horses and stuff?
I think Lester here might be talking about a cookie. It's like chocolate covered, is that right?
Struth, mate. You had one before?
Quite a while ago, the missus and I headed down under 1 year for our anniversary. Pretty crazy you have some, especially around these parts.
Yeah. What does it taste like? I'm so over what we've been eating.
This right here is why I didn't want Lester out with me. He has this strange rhythm, like everything changes pace and people lose focus on what's important. I should be headed home right now, not chatting about Australian cookies.
Oh, poor Henry's getting mad that all of us want to discuss cookies. Look at his face. Are we making you sad and frustrated?
Cass is so annoying, like somehow she's in my head every time I see her. And now I have to play along with these two? Please, just kill me now.
Don't be so melodramatic, Henry. We can take time to discuss things that don't involve danger. We're not all adrenaline junkies like some people. Some of us are normal.
The sheriff is right, Henry. A bit of discussion doesn't hurt among colleagues. But Lester, why don't you head over and get us an accounting of where you two are at, and we can catch up with old Henry here.
Sounds good, Mr. Jensen. Cass, I'll bring those bickies for you, mate.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Lester. Okay, really quick, guys. What's a bicky? And do I want it?
He just means the cookies, Sheriff. Henry, sounds like they didn't give you all the details. Why don't you fill us in on what you know, and then we'll try fill in the blanks.
Thanks, Mr. Jensen. I mean, Eric. Okay, this is super weird.
Only because you're making it that way. You can be such a dweeb sometimes.
Just call me deputy if you like, Henry. Might move things along faster. Why don't we let him talk, Sheriff?
Yeah, why don't we let me talk, Sheriff?
Then talk, please, for the love of all humanity.
Guys, come on.
Okay, it's about, 1815? I got the report at 1730. Radio said that you guys had issues with one of your bunker buddies, some guy named Jennings. Report I got was pretty vague. Seemed you were hearing weird sounds, which didn't really make any sense to me. I mean, it's fallout shelters. Shouldn't be able to hear anything.
I got this, Pops.
Have at her, Sheriff.
We didn't just request for anybody, we asked for you. We put the request to Lana, and she backpedaled to get this sorted out for us.
All right, so I sort of see where this is going.
By the way, you can say her name, and we were listening on your radio frequency, you can be super aggressive with Autumn.
Look, Cassidy, I don't.
Let me just cut this off right here. Sheriff, how about you keep giving him the details?
Fine, but this Autumn thing I'm going to come back to later. So, we might need to give you some extra details, which we normally wouldn't give an outsider, but I figure it's you, so why not? But we wouldn't trust anyone else with this.
Got it, lip sealed. So what?
These bunkers were built about 10 years ago, when rich people started getting worried about what their sins were going to cost the world, and were trying to pay to get out of it. The town was approached about that time to give permission for them to be built off the books. No permits, no numbers or anything, but access to freshwater sites, the kind that could be kept anonymous. Some oil guys in the past were doing geological surveys and sold the data to some hedge fund. Turns out there was a lot of natural wells in these parts. These fields were mostly used for grazing, and it's not too far from the quarry and the old mines. Most people didn't want to buy land out here, and the city wasn't extending out this way either. So, you can guess why they came to us.
Kind of figured as much. There's a limit to how much you can store of anything, and you needed some kind of sewage system going too. But allowing any part of your bunker to be accessed from the outside, that kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it? And I can't imagine rich people wanting to share any of these resources with others. I mean, the kind of people who would want something like this aren't known for being communal.
Not really, unless these guys kind of wanted to be. The kind that might want a separate one for grandpa, the kids, maybe a cousin or two.
So are all of them interconnected? Like a little network of tunnels?
Most of them have some way of at least communicating with their neighbors, and some are directly connected. It's also not something they want to get out. Can you imagine if someone found out there was a single bunker that could give you access to everything? I mean, you remember the stories out of Missouri and Illinois?
Yeah, stories. Okay, keep going, Deputy.
What? What did I say?
Sheriff, why don't you get a stick or something, and we can draw out the layout of the bunkers in the dirt for him, so he can see the dilemma we have.
And why doesn't Henry go get that, Deputy?
No reason, I can walk just fine. But night's coming. Can we do something about our visibility? While I pick out the most pristine and balanced drawing stick that nature ever provided? Or is that an issue, Sheriff?
Go ahead, Henry. The sheriff and I can have a quick chat while you look.
As I walk away, I can hear them aggressively whispering. Actually, it's mostly Cass I hear, because she's not really whispering. I do pick out the best stick I can find, mostly to mess with her. Normally, I wouldn't wander off alone in the dark, but people like Deputy Jensen are smart enough to think that way too, which means 1. There's not an external issue to worry about, or 2. They've already captured the target, or 3. It's being actively monitored. Walking allows me to get a clear look at the place too, despite the darkness. These days, with so little light pollution, you can see pretty clearly. I can just make out Lester at the entrance. I wasn't sure how far we should drive. I mean, we could have driven into a hole for all I know. The site's off the main road for a few miles. Trees kind of surround the entire layout, so I walked towards them. It was only Cass and the deputy that came out to greet us. I think, including Martha, I've only met 3 people in the community. Lana, I think, met them all at one stage. As I move about, I can see small entrances and a bunch of deer grazing. I figure whatever's underneath was built in a grid system. It's just the simplest way to do it. The town itself is kind of built near a quarry, like a massive hole that they were pulling stone out of for years. And there were mines of some sort, I heard. I've always wondered about it before. Either way, I make my way back to them. They seem to have reached an agreement. I look over to Lester, who's got a light of some kind going, which I'm pleasantly surprised about. I can see he's laid things out on the grass to do a proper stock take. I'm actually impressed.
So, he's already figured out most of it already, like I said he would. Henry, it's totally a grid system. And we know where the problem is. It's just an issue with access.
I've told you before, Sheriff. I don't like it when you do that.
Well, anyway, if you pass me that stick, I'll walk you through the residence. So it's 3 rows of 8 bunkers, each the same size, which is like 2,000 square feet of floor space.
That's okay, that's huge.
Better believe it. Most of the sites are semi-connected. Cass and I, we got one when they were looking to keep things on the quiet. Governor was supposed to get one too, which I had the code for. But guess he found something better or didn't make it, so Cass and I ended up just taking it over.
Convenient.
Yeah, I thought so, and enough food, which was super important because with the fallout and the sickness and the hail, you needed like 12 months at least. Also, we had Dr. DeYoung with us next door, which was nice for the old timer.
It's nice to have someone during difficult times. And with Cass here, and then Martha. Despite how bad things were, it was nice to have a family.
And so, good to have someone right there to help us with our mental health.
We're not bragging, but anyway. We occupy the bottom sections right at the end of the grid, but we don't have the corner unit.
That unit has its own set of priority tunnels that the rest of us, ourselves included, can't access. We have this internal network so we can talk and video and, set up programming for television even.
Even have archives of the net for key areas. History, blueprints, even got games for the kids. All run out of that one unit there. Guy by the name of Jennings.
So he's basically our soul systems guy. From what he's told us, he lived a pretty quiet life before, so he was happy to do it.
So if something was to go wrong, he was the guy who could access anything he needed to.
What does anything mean in this case? Could he get into your site?
So, if Jennings is infrastructure, then we're enforcement. We have access to the sites if needed, but it's supposed to take all three of us acting in concert, with Martha acting as the third unit for health. If all of us agree, then we can bypass the security. Normally, though, it takes just one of us and the individual bunker owner providing approval, for health or any other kind of emergency, but always paired up.
It's a system that's worked to date, but Jennings, well, something seems a bit off.
My last contact was with him a week ago, and he's kind of zoned out since then. I mean, he was normally pretty good, but he could sometimes, I guess, be off his game.
He means he was high, not all the time, but just recently.
But, and I think you can guess where I'm going with this.
So, we get audit logs on all the units. Nothing intrusive, just like what kind of power, water, or sewage might be engaged at any time. And then general security like doors opening or motion sensors around us.
We've been getting no access reports, so we know he's not leaving. But we've also stopped getting usage reports of any kind.
Have any of the other units seen increased output around that same time span?
From what I can see, there's no real exceptions. Nothing to explain the last few days, at least. Maybe he was using additional units over time, but nothing extreme over the same time period.
Which means, fingers crossed, we think he might have died. Or maybe, just maybe, he's got another exit that we don't know about that lets him leave and enter when and how he wants outside of the logs.
It's a hypothetical we came up with to explain the erratic behavior. We've been here for years, so it's not clear to us how he could come into contact with drugs or even alcohol. I mean, it's one thing if he was making his own stuff from the jump, like a still or some plants. But given the boundaries of this place, it should be next to impossible to achieve in the last couple of weeks.
Unless what we assume are universal boundaries are not for Jennings, which means we could be running into something else.
I don't know. Maybe he just had stuff stored away and finally decided to use them. Either way, he's not returning our messages, so it's time for at least a wellness check.
All makes sense so far. I can see why you need to investigate, but I don't see why I'm here.
So, I tried reaching out to him and everyone else. No one reported seeing him or hearing from him. We can access the cameras, so I reviewed all the content I had and nothing popped up.
And before you even asked, all the lighting matched up, and we could see changes across time. Animals grazing, weather changes, so nothing to suggest our cameras were on a loop. At least no data we had.
So, pairing up with Martha, who is still in her bunker, we decided to get the codes to leave our unit and try to enter his. But you can guess what's coming.
Okay, makes sense, but what's that got to do with me?
Cass here picked up something from Augustine. That's the reason we made contact.
So earlier today, I could feel his presence. Like, not him, but maybe the two of you together. I'm not sure, but I felt something. And so we had just come outside to do the inspection when it just hit me. And then I get closer to Jennings' bunker, I just feel it more intensely.
We're not sure what this all means, so we reached out to Lana, and she let us know you were nearby.
You guys heard of the Jamesons? Up the road a ways?
Yeah, not well, but knew of him. Got remarried a bit before. I try to keep track of all the residents in these parts, just to keep an eye on security.
Well, I go there, and Mr. Jameson breaks into a second phase event, and guess who hijacks him?
No way. Like, how is that even possible?
I have no idea, but he says he's got a cult of followers now. Anyway, there's one around here somewhere close because they were pretty recently turned. Raped the wife and used her turn and retrieval to hide it. Some kind of sick message.
This reminds me of the old days. I had hoped with all the people we've lost, maybe some good could have come out of it.
Well, whatever's going on, I got a reading when I went by, which means one of us needs to check this out, and this is more your field than mine.
And Henry, I don't want the girl needing to activate more than she needs to. I mean, she says she can control it, but I would rather she didn't have to. You hearing me?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. But I have another question. They said sounds were being reported. That should be impossible, right? These things are built to be silent to the outside.
Yeah, and about that, after the whole Augustine moment, I kind of walked around the bunker once I came through okay. I placed my ear against the sides for some super strange reason, and it just felt thinner in some parts, like parts of it had empty spaces. That's when I started to make out really weird sounds coming from within it.
So, to summarize, we got a weird situation where something is definitely happening inside. We got some kind of channeling event, and we got a bunker that has never been opened with some kind of issue taking place.
Okay, but either way, we have to be screwed, right? We can't get inside unless we had a nuclear bomb, and you don't have the clearance. Maybe it's something we don't have to solve?
Dude, you can't just leave problems to build up. We have to be proactive. If we address it now, then we might reduce or at least expose what's going on.
Exactly. And from what you've just told me, we have a serial rapist in the area. I won't let Cass get hurt, especially if Augustine is involved.
And if he's involved, you're involved.
Okay, so the door. What's the plan?
I've been looking through the old service records and I can't see a way through it. So we explained all this to Lana, who then told me we were in luck.
Luck, how so? Since when did I get lucky?
Never fear, fine folk. Lester has returned. Got some cookies for the lady sheriff and a list of materials for the dudes. Mate, it's so weird being back here. Like deja vu, or whatever it's called.
Oh, these look so yummy. But okay, wait 1 minute. You've been here before, Lester?
No offense, but I think I would have remembered someone like you.
Yeah, not here, mate. That would have been weird. I was on the other side of these trees, down by the quarry and the mines. No, actually I was here once. Or was that in a dream?
I don't understand. Sorry, Lester to pry, but were you working at the quarry in the past?
Or were you working for the same company here, but down by the quarry?
Yeah, that's it, Sheriff Cass. I was working in New Zealand, down by Queenstown, in the mountains, so beautiful. And the company I worked for, at the time, they wanted me to help them out on some project that they had out this way. I just wanted work and then go surfing, but it was a good offer and ended up stranded out here.
You surf, Lester? That is so cool. When this is over, you have to teach me.
Oh yeah, of course, and by the way, I totally voted for you.
Can we just take a step back for a second, Lester? You were employed by these bunker guys and you were working at another location, is that right? And when did the election take place? I didn't see or hear anything.
Man, I've been your next door neighbor for 2 years, and I've never seen you open a window before. Can you believe this guy? I've been feeding your cat for 2 years, mate, and you have no idea. Do you even look for Cavill? He came over having a whinge, and then I guess I have a cat.
So, there's a lot to download there, Henry. When did you get a cat? And is Cavill something you called him, or is that Lester's name for him? And 2 years? Bro.
Normally, I try to get these conversations back on topic, but you didn't feed an animal for 2 years? Like, what's going on, Henry? Something must be pretty unhealthy in your life to pay such little attention. I thought better of you.
Let's take a step away from my personal life for a second. And for the record, I feed my cat. Tennyson's obviously getting fed by multiple people.
Your cat's name is Tennyson? Dude, you're so pretentious. I'm calling him Cavill as well.
As exciting as Cavill is, can we get back on topic? Lester, it sounds like there are actually 2 locations we should be focused on, and not just the one here. Is that correct?
Yeah, mate, I set up the verification platform and the IT systems on that site. I trained up the guy from here, though. Funnily, his name's also Lester. now that I remember it. Wait, I wonder if that's the same bloke we're out here for. Think his last name was Jennings too? Or was that Jensen? Maybe I'm just getting confused with your name.
That's so funny. Is like every IT guy's named Lester?
Guess it is around here. I had set up some of the cables through the tunnel that runs from here to the other location though, so I remember ducking my head out and looking around this place. It's a bit nicer here, if I'm honest.
So, okay, there's a lot here, Lester. What was the name of the company you worked for?
Roman Wolves Bunkers. That was the parent company I worked for. Think there was another name for here.
Company that got set up here was Hopewell Homes.
Doesn't ring any bells, but all right.
Lester, was it quite long, the tunnels that ran between the sites? And where was the entrance point?
Lester's bunker had access to the tunnel, if I remember. It was supposed to have support staff from here go over to the others as a failsafe, and this site was using a lot of the networking infrastructure from there as well.
I had no idea about any of this. I guess it gives us an answer to what Jennings could have come into contact with, but nothing really about his bunker.
So what's the issue? You want to get into Lester's bunker, mate?
Yeah, we've been talking about the problems with access.
Then there's no problem. Pretty sure I remember the master codes for this place. There's a terminal I put in around this side of the trees. Should be able to get access to the service tunnel and then make our way to Lester's.
That's perfect. Lester, you're awesome. I mean, you, Lester, the one right here, our Lester. Not that one that could be sitting in a puddle of his own making.
I'm assuming you'll need a separate entrance code, though, to get into the bunker?
Nah, program the code to his bunker to the name Lester. Should be super easy. It was me that thought of that. Because of our names.
Wait, if you can access his site directly, then we shouldn't need to use the tunnel.
Maybe. But the only code I remember putting in was the one from the tunnel entrance.
Okay, so plan is to get to this tunnel, then to get to the bunker, and then enter the site. Is that right?
Works for me. What about you, Sheriff?
Let's be careful about the opening of the tunnel, though. It's pretty late. We open it, and a pack of something or others run out. We could get overwhelmed pretty quickly.
I agree. Wonder if it's better to wait for the light and just set up a perimeter around here. Set up a trap or something.
Maybe. But if the sheriff was the enforcement arm of the bunker, we might be able to give them security clearance to access the tunnel's cameras, and whatever's going on in Lester's bunker, should make it easier.
Okay. Is there anything else you can help us with? Anything else we should know? Seems like you keep adding details. So why not just get it all out? And by the way, this cookie is amazing.
Okay. Well, each bunker should be equipped with sleeping gas as well, in case, the unexpected happened and someone tried to break out, or we determined that the system was compromised or there were problems. We would put them to sleep, make the fix, and then walk out again. No questions asked, which I thought was pretty pervy.
Did you just say break out, not break in?
Yeah, but not like prisoners. Some of these guys had junkie kids that they wanted to bring in and detox. Thought it was cheaper than rehab. But that's about when I decided I wasn't going back. If someone just wants to puff on some chiba, it's a plant, so it's natural to begin with.
Okay. We can discuss that later. Lester, can you access that service terminal first? Make sure everything's working? Then, Sheriff, I think it might be worth letting Lester access our bunker. See if we can get these cameras, and maybe even that sleeping gas working.
Okay, let's close off Martha, though. It's not really fair to endanger anyone else.
What do you mean in danger? Thought we were mates, Sheriff. Gave you one of my cookies.
Lester, why don't you give me that asset list, and I'll try figure out some plan of attack.
If we can access Jennings' bunker from the service tunnel end, assuming if it's safe, then we might be able to create a choke point.
Lester, do you remember if the service tunnels have lights?
Yeah, mate, they do. Good ones, too. Used to pinch a few for this garden I had going.
Okay, so let's collect the data we have and meet back when you guys are ready. We can discuss a plan of attack. If everything looks fine and we can get those lights going, then I say there's no reason we can't go in and have a look. Any problems with that?
You going in by yourself?
Please, I'm the sheriff around these parts. I go too. But, Pops, why don't you hang back on this one just in case?
She's pretty good, Henry, and a hell of a shot. Lester, if this does work out, I might get you to man the cameras with me.
That's a bit disappointing. I was hoping to knife something. I got this awesome one picked out. I call it the Yorker Slicer for giggles.
Alright, so I guess let's start prepping?
Lester, I'm pretty sure you have the chance to knife something soon enough. For now, I guess we all get started.
Fantastic. Okay then, break.
That's all for this episode of Retrieval. Remember, if you enjoy this content, to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll be back with our next episode, Acid Reflux.